Alright guys, tomorrow, Tuesday, August 18th, update 1.4.2.0 releases for Battlefield 6, and there's a ton to get through. Like always, expect the download to hit ahead of time at 4 AM Eastern, with the content itself going up at 8 AM. In this update, Wake Island is coming back, Tsuru Reef is getting some updates, we're getting an official Top Gun squad, Carrier Assault is returning, and we're finally getting our two-seater jets. So today, I want to break down everything dropping tomorrow, talk about the frustrating server browser situation, and close out with the patch notes that are actually worth knowing. But guys, before we get into it, if you enjoy in-depth reviews and discussions about all things Battlefield, drop a like and hit subscribe, and let's talk about everything coming with Season 4's next update. Alright, kicking things off with the biggest item, Wake Island is back. This is the map's 11th appearance across the entire franchise, going all the way back to 1942, and DICE has rebuilt it specifically for Battlefield 6's scale and systems. And to be honest, like I said back during the reveal, I'm personally a little tired of Wake Island at this point. We've seen this map remastered more times than anything else in Battlefield history. But I'm excited to see how it holds up with everything Season 4 has added to the sandbox, and taking advantage of new offshore aircraft carriers all sounds like a fun way to test the game against a fan-favorite map. And it's not the only map getting updates, because Tsuru Reef, already the biggest map in Battlefield 6, is expanding. New aircraft carriers are being added into the map itself, opening up brand new combat spaces. Those carriers will show up as part of the environment in Conquest and Escalation, but full carrier gameplay is exclusive to the new mode, which brings us up to the addition we've all been waiting years for. Carrier Assault is finally back. Carrier Assault from Battlefield 4 is one of my favorite game modes the franchise has ever made, and Naval Strike as a whole holds a special place in my heart. So seeing it come back, officially rebranded with a Top Gun collab, is a pretty wild update. It's the perfect mode to combine all the community's favorite elements of all-out war and scale, while still having complex and detailed objectives as you push towards each other's carriers. But like always, DICE is trying to fuck this up, because of course they're wrapping all of this, Carrier Strike included, under the banner of the Top Gun event, complete with its own limited time currency called Ace Medals and dedicated set of event challenges. That framing is just like how DICE has treated every other piece of content they've later ripped away. Operations, Nightfall, and even some base game content like StrikePoint. Arguably the single best piece of content in this entire season, the mode traditional fans have been begging to see return is being tied to an event structure instead of just permanently joining the mode rotation. Like, just let that sink in. DICE finally brought back Carrier Assault, nailed the concept, tied it to an interesting collab, and the way it's packaged strongly suggests they're planning to take it away once again, just like the past events and past modes like Operations. This isn't a random minigame like the motocross event. This is a real, substantial, fan-favorite pillar of the franchise, and throwing it under an event currency and countdown instead of folding it into the permanent rotation is an incredibly out-of-touch decision. Carrier Strike deserves better, and I hope enough of us make noise that they reconsider before it's gone for good, perhaps making a new all-out war playlist where these large-scale modes like Operations and Carrier Strike can rotate. But moving on, over in RedSec, Air Combat is getting its own dedicated space to complement the new content with a new gauntlet mission called Fighter Sweep. It's a jets-only experience where you and a wingman eliminate rival squadrons, evade incoming anti-aircraft fire, and try to wipe the opposing team before they do the same to you. Now, all of this new naval content will be wrapped up with the Top Gun collab, which I still have mixed feelings about on principle, but I have to admit, DICE is doing a much better job here than they did with Red Bull. The event introduces the CJTF Helix, a new squad unit inspired by the Top Gun characters, where Rooster, Bob, and Admiral Warlock are all coming into the game voiced by their original actors, Miles Teller, Louis Pullman, and Charles Parnell. This is Battlefield's first ever entertainment collab, done in partnership with Paramount, and unlike something like the motocross event I shit on a while back, this one actually makes thematic sense. Naval Warfare and Top Gun are a natural pairing. They got real new voice work instead of just slapping a skin over an old character, and it's tied directly into the season instead of some random left turn chasing a completely different audience. Credit where it's due, this is how they should do a collab without it feeling like as much of a cash grab. Though for me personally, I still stand by the idea of collaborating with real special forces and releasing nationally themed packs that highlight specific units around the world, kinda like Medal of Honor Warfighter. But moving on, that brings us to the new jets, and this is going to be a huge highlight for the fanbase as we're finally getting our new two-seater jets, the FA-81F Super Spectre and the F-74A Seacat. Funny enough, the official in-game names aren't the literal F-14 Tomcat and F-18 Hornet everyone's been calling them off the leaks, but the resemblance is obviously intentional. The Super Spectre is built for aerial superiority and precision strikes, while the Seacat has variable sweep wings that adjust mid-flight for speed and maneuverability. Call them whatever you want, at the end of the day, it's the Tomcat and the Hornet, and that's what matters to the players. If you've watched this channel for any amount of time, you know I'm primarily an infantry guy, but I can't deny how big of a deal this is. Aerial combat has honestly felt like an afterthought for most of the live service, and giving jets their own dedicated space to shine on top of two genuinely iconic aircraft is exactly the lean into what makes Battlefield energy Season 4 has been built upon since Season 3. I'll probably still be on the ground for most of the time, but I'm looking forward to hopping in the gunner seat of one of these two-man jets. Now, on top of the jets, we're also getting the Interdictor, which will be the longest-range sniper in Battlefield 6. Unlockable through the Battle Pass, it's built for extreme distance engagements, and DICE specifically calls out that it can pick off aviators sitting in their cockpits. There's also a genuinely cool POI dropping on RedSec called USS Grant, better known as the Crashed Carrier, a downed aircraft carrier sitting right off the coast, loaded with high-value loot. For the first few weeks, it'll be flagged as a high-value zone, so expect squads to be gunning for it and expect it to be an absolute bloodbath early on. And on top of everything else, Battlefield 6 is going free to play from August 18th through the week of the 25th, giving new players access to 6 modes across 4 maps, including Tsuru Reef, Wake Island, Cairo Bazaar, and Hagental. So if you've got friends who've been on the fence, this is the week to drag them in. Alright, so that's the headline content, and honestly, most of it's pretty solid. But before we get into the smaller patch note stuff, I wanted to take a minute to remind you guys where we currently stand on the whole server browser situation and where the modes are, because that will directly tie into the carrier strike frustration that I went off about. If you caught my last video, DICE spent the last couple weeks quietly taking modes like Tactical Obliteration, StrikePoint, and even Rush out of the multiplayer search, to the point Steam was reportedly letting players refund the game because of it, and their first response to the backlash was pulling even more modes before walking it back the same day. They've since dropped a formal playlist update where TDM, King of the Hill, Dom, Rush, and Obliteration are now split across 2 rotating weekly playlists, while Conquest, Breakthrough, and Custom Search stay available at all times. On paper, consolidating underperforming modes isn't a bad idea, but StrikePoint still isn't even mentioned, and Tactical Obliteration now only gets 1 week out of every 2, and the same goes for Rush. This is a band-aid, not a real fix, and it's exactly the kind of problem a real server browser would have made unnecessary in the first place. We've been asking for a browser since before this game even released, and it's still sitting in production for Season 5. And that's exactly why Carrier Strike being tied to an event hurts so much when you zoom out. Add it to operations, the air superiority mode, and the NVG modes that always quietly vanish. DICE keeps building genuinely great content, hard-fought content, and then throwing it away a few weeks later instead of investing into the game's permanent foundation. It's not that they can't make good stuff, it's that leadership treats every piece of it as disposable FOMO bait instead of a pillar worth keeping around. But moving on, let's get into the rest of what's changing Tuesday, because there's some genuinely solid stuff buried in the patch notes although there's a ton more stuff that needs to be done, especially in RedSec. And DICE even says this update touches every system in the game: vehicles, weapons, gadgets, maps, UI, portal, audio, you name it. On the aircraft side, there's a new assist option which guides your aircraft towards the center of your camera and automatically manages pitch, roll, and yaw, making planes way more approachable if you've never flown in this game before. Jet landing gear physics have also been reworked for better control on takeoff and landing. There's also a new ADS dispersion crosshair, on by default in the firing range, and optional in multiplayer, which shows your accuracy degrading in real time during sustained automatic fire or movement while aiming down sights. On weapons, the EF-88 and VSSM are both getting visual fixes, and non-recon classes should see smoother, less jittery scope transitions on snipers, though DICE says the intended quick-scoping penalty compared to recon is staying in place. There's also a decent batch of map fixes worth talking about. Several rooftop exploits got fixed on Cairo Bazaar and Manhattan, spawn points got adjusted across 5 different maps, and Hoggenthal Base fixed the exploit where objectives could be captured straight through the sewers. Portal is also expanding with custom lobbies, though I want to temper expectations here. DICE themselves are calling this an early implementation aimed at organized and competitive communities, covering Battle Royale quads and Conquest for now, with hosts able to assign teams, pick maps, and toggle spectating. But they're also upfront that both custom lobbies and spectator mode are still works in progress, with spectating specifically flagged as having noticeable limitations and reliability issues. So it's coming, it's just not the polished feature I was hoping for right out of the gate. On top of that, Tsuru Reef is now open for custom experiences, Wake Island is available for verified experiences, and the new jets and patrol boat have been added to the Portal SDK. So taken as a whole, Tuesday is a genuinely solid day for the game. Wake Island, an expanded Tsuru Reef, Carrier Strike New Jets, the Interdictor, a new RedSec POI, a free trial week to bring in new players. There's a lot here for the fanbase to enjoy and has wanted for years. I just wish DICE would stop undercutting their own best work by wrapping it into events and countdowns, because Carrier Strike deserved to be a permanent pillar of the game. But it doesn't stop there. Looking ahead, Phase 3, called Tidal Strike, is closing out the season on September 15th, with a collection event built around naval-based contracts and challenges. So if you're enjoying the naval theme of Season 4, there's still plenty more to come. However, it appears that Carrier Strike is most likely not going to be sticking around beyond the season. But guys, drop those comments below and let me know what you're most hyped about with this update. And for everything else Battlefield, stay tuned and subscribe, and as always, thank you guys for watching.